Did you know there's a way to lower your mortgage payment without refinancing? A lot of homeowners don't realize this is even an option. And to be clear, it's not a guaranteed option for anyone. But if you make a large lump sum payment towards your mortgage, usually at least $5,000 or more, and then ask the loan servicer to do what's called a recast on the loan, they can re-amortize it over the existing term, lowering your monthly payment amount. Now, depending on your situation, it can be one of the simplest ways to improve monthly cash flow without paying for a refinance or losing your current interest rate. But there are also some important caveats that people miss. So in this video, I want to walk through why someone might choose one, whether it's safe to bank on doing a recast in the future, why lenders allow them in the first place, and where it can go wrong if you don't understand the trade-off. Because like most things in mortgages, the details matter. Let's dive in. So what is a recast? Well, at its core, a recast is pretty simple. You make a large principal payment towards your mortgage balance, and then the lender re-amortizes or recalculates the loan based on the remaining term. Meaning your loan balance goes down, your monthly payment goes down, but your interest rate stays the same. That last part is important. This is not a refinance. You are not replacing your loan. You are not getting a new interest rate. You are not restarting your mortgage term. You're keeping the existing loan intact. The lender is just recalculating the payment based on the new principal balance. Here's a really basic example. Let's say someone owes $500,000 on a mortgage. Then they receive an inheritance, a bonus, or proceeds from selling another property, and they put $100,000 towards that $500,000 that they own. Instead of keeping the same payment, the lender can recalculate it based on that new $400,000 balance over the remaining term of the loan. So the homeowner lowers their monthly obligation without refinancing. Now, for the right person, a recast can be a really useful tool to help increase monthly cash flow. Maybe someone wants more breathing room financially. Maybe they're preparing for one income instead of two. Maybe they bought a new home before selling the old one, and now they want to apply the sale proceeds towards that new mortgage. This is actually a really common reason that people do recasts. They don't want to deal with the hassle of a contingent purchase, and they happen to have strong enough finances to get approved for the second mortgage without selling the first home. Another reason people consider recast is because current interest rates are higher than the rate they already have. If someone locked in a 3% mortgage a few years ago, refinancing today may not make much sense for them. So a recast becomes a way to reduce the payment they have while preserving the low rate they already have. And compared to refinancing, it's usually much simpler. There's lower fees, much less paperwork, if any at all. There's no appraisal in most cases. It's really more of an administrative process than anything having to do with underwriting. Now, this part surprises people sometimes. They'll ask, why would my lender allow me to do a recast? Won't they be missing out on some of the interest I would have paid them if I didn't do this? Yes, it is true. A recast typically means the lender won't make quite as much money off your loan compared to just keeping it the way it is. But from the lender's perspective, the loan actually becomes safer. There's less risk involved. The homeowner now has more equity, the balance is lower, the risk of default is generally reduced, and there's a lower risk that you're gonna leave that lender and go refinance with somebody else. So the lender continues to earn interest on the balance, and perhaps most importantly, they just view it as a way to keep you happy and keep your business, hopefully. Now, if they don't allow you to do a recast, there's an increased likelihood that you'll refinance the loan, and statistically, when somebody refinances, they are more than likely to go do it with a different lender than the one that they currently have. Now, this is super important. Not every loan and not every lender allows recasting. Conventional loans often allow for it. Government-backed loans like FHA or VA loans may have restrictions or may not allow them at all. And also lenders don't have to allow for a recast. So this is always something you need to verify with your servicer directly. And the big risk here is that you don't know who will be servicing your loan in the future. See, borrowers in the US do not have a legal right to prevent their mortgage from being sold or transferred to another servicer. So you may end up with a company that doesn't allow recasts in the future, even if the one you're with now does. And this is the part that matters most, because a recast is not automatically the best move just because someone has a bunch of cash available. First, lenders usually require a minimum lump sum payment. Sometimes it's $5,000, but sometimes significantly more than that. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the larger the lump sum payment you make before the recast, the more benefit you get out of the recast. Making a $5,000 lump sum payment and then doing a recast may lower your payment by $20 to $50, $60 a month, but applying $50,000 to the principal and then recasting, depending on interest rate and remaining loan, could lower your payment by a couple $100s a month. Now, there's also typically a recast fee, but it's usually pretty modest, about $200 to $300, but still something to account for. Now, second, a recast does not shorten your loan term. Your payment gets lower, but the timeline usually stays the same. So you're gonna repay the loan in the same amount of time unless you're making additional payments. So if someone's goal is paying the house off faster, simply making an extra principal payments without recasting may actually align better. It just requires more discipline over a longer period of time. And third, once you put the cash into the mortgage, that liquidity becomes difficult and or expensive to access. And this is where I think people need to really think hard before doing a recast. Home equity is valuable, but it is not liquid. If you put every extra dollar into the house, and then life changes, job loss, medical issues, business slowdown, accessing that money again is not always simple or cheap. So before doing a recast, I usually encourage people to think carefully about, what does your emergency reserve look like? What other debt do you have? What's your overall financial flexibility after making the payment? Because reducing a mortgage payment feels good, but financial stability usually comes from maintaining some level of flexibility. Now, one quick caveat I do want to add to this. There is a whole different type of loan, usually called an all-in-one mortgage or a first position HELOC, that does allow you to pay off your loan faster, usually save a lot of money in interest, and maintain access to your equity. So you stay relatively liquid, and it just gives you a ton of flexibility, but it is really not meant for most people. There's a very narrow subset of borrowers who should have that type of loan, but it is something just to mention. I'll do another video on that at a later time. And then finally, sometimes people assume a recast will dramatically change their payment when the actual impact can be fairly modest. Now, the numbers matter. You want to run the math before committing a large amount of cash. In my experience, recasts tend to make the most sense for people who already have a strong interest rate, they have a meaningful lump sum available, they have cash flow bandwidth already, and they have budget flexibility, and they plan to keep the property long enough for the change to matter. It's often less about maximizing every dollar mathematically and more about creating stability and flexibility in your monthly life. And for some families, that does matter quite a bit. A mortgage recast is one of those tools that can be really helpful when used intentionally, but it's not something I'd recommend automatically just because a lender allows it. The right move really does depend on your broader financial picture, just like almost everything in mortgage. It's not just about the loan itself. So if you're trying to figure out whether recast, refinance, or just keeping your cash liquid makes the most sense for your situation, I'm always happy to talk through options and let you know what's available to you. You can book some time with me using the link in the description below. And if there's any other videos you'd like to see, please leave a comment, let me know, and I'll be sure to cover it in a future video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone if you think it could be helpful to them. And until next time, take care.